The following podcast is part of the Underdog Sports Podcast Network. For advertising information or to find more great podcasts, visit us at www.theunderdogsports.com and follow us on Twitter at RealTheUnderdog.
Okay. Well, just for the record, we got Sonny in Phoenix too. 52 to.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Sonny and Phoenix podcast, a weekly podcast where we keep you up to date on everything Phoenix Suns basketball. My name is Charlie Erling, and as always, I've got Mitch Krumpetich with me.
Well, hi.
Well, hey there to you, Mitch. And this week on the show, we'll be talking about the confirmed 22-team return of the NBA season. And then after that, we'll be talking about what all this means for the Suns.
Follow us on Twitter at Sunny and PHX Pod. Same thing for Instagram. Go on iTunes, leave us a 5-star review and a comment, and you will get a shout out on the show.
All right, it's confirmed we're getting basketball back, and we know a few details. There are still plenty more coming, but we're going to fill you guys in with everything that we know so far. So there's a 22-team return, like we talked about a lot last week on the episode. So we'll spare going into all the details, but we have July 9th through the 11th, somewhere around there, set for the start of training camp.
I am thrilled that basketball is coming back. I'm so glad that this is the plan. It seems like it's going to work pretty well, and I'm just happy that the Suns are playing. I would be happy if they weren't, just to be able to watch any basketball. But we're going to be able to watch at least 8 games of Suns basketball this year.
Right. We feel like we were robbed as Suns fans this year, especially with the 25-game Ayton suspension and then the shortened season. That hurt. And as a team, we were looking pretty nice towards the end of the year. And now we get to see these guys come back into action. But let's, before we go too deep into the Suns, let's talk about a little more of the details that we found out. And one of the main concerns, obviously, is keeping everybody healthy and safe down in Orlando in the campus-like situation that they're putting together. And what we know so far about that is, as it goes for COVID, they're going to be doing nightly tests. Everybody within the bubble will have a nightly tests, and there will be results in the morning. So every night there will be tests. We'll know who may have picked it up or not. And it sounds like they're already discussing if it will be a 1-week or 2-week quarantine for a positive test.
And I mean, this is just the best we can do. You know, I'm glad that we have the testing capacity to test everyone on a daily basis. I think that's going to be great. I worry a little bit because one of the stipulations of all of this is like, yeah, they're at Disney World. It's like the campus kind of thing, but they're not allowed to leave. So what's going to happen when inevitably someone does leave? That's what I worry about.
I know. And I think back to my teenage years playing high school basketball, going to summer camps, team basketball camps. Maybe we can all think back to those days. We were sneaking out of our room every night, going to play poker, or maybe there was a girls' team camp there at the same time. Maybe something like that was the case. But, you know, we were trying to get out of there. And I can't imagine dudes in their early 20s getting locked into a hotel saying you can't leave. That's going to be a tough situation. And
Right.
Who knows how it will be enforced, or I actually saw it was some foreign league of some sort. They were tracking their players because their season had started back up, and they were tracking where their players went when they weren't playing the games, when they were supposed to be in the hotel. So I wonder what the ramifications are if you were to leave the boundary or whatever it may be. I wonder what they do. That's something I'll be interested to see that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think of it this way. I like the analogy of the basketball camp. Now just imagine you're at that high school basketball camp but you're old enough to drink and you have millions of dollars.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
exactly.
It's gonna be interesting. Though I think these guys are taking it seriously. I think they probably will understand that, you know, the consequences of this are going to be serious, you know. But we already have some consequences for certain things, and one Josh Jackson will be in attendance for all of this. So, you know.
Uh-oh.
I mean, nothing against him. I hope that he's doing better. It seems like he got things turned around with the Grizzlies, which is good. So, I mean, jokes aside, I think it'll be okay. I think guys will understand the importance of this, and I think they'll be grateful to be able to continue playing. You know, I don't think guys are going to take it for granted, and I think they will follow the rules just to make sure, you know, the season goes smoothly. And then on top of that, as far as the testing goes, I read an interesting article that I believe was on Bloomberg. This was probably a week ago or so. And there was a doctor talking about the availability of testing in the country and kind of the near future of testing. And he was talking about how there's potential to have mass testing available potentially like in the fall, where offices could test all their employees at one time. Like everyone would just like go spit in like a cup or something, and they'd be able to test all of that. If it came back negative, great. If it came back positive, then they could test every individual person in that office to figure out. So mass testing on like a smaller level, from like a office by office level, or maybe team by team, that would be really nice if we can have that kind of technology before the season ends. You know, the article I read was kind of predicting that could be a fall kind of thing, but the season, you know, could go as far as October 12th. So if we're talking September, early October, that might be something the NBA could put to use as well if it's available.
That's very interesting.
Yeah.
And then one thing I've seen a little bit, there may be a little bit of contention with this, is the two-way contract factor here. And it sounds like initially they didn't want to allow two-way guys to join the bubble because they were just thinking that's two more guys from every team that we need to account for within this bubble. But the Players Association is saying we're in a pandemic right now with this illness, COVID, going around, and if we're going to be quarantined for 1 to 2 weeks, if we happen to get it while we're playing, our team's just out. So it seems like those 2 extra spots wouldn't hurt anything too much, and I think teams would even have the option to extend their contracts or not. So you wouldn't even necessarily need to bring them along, but it seems just like a safe plan to have 1 or 2 extra guys. You know, this is, can you sign anyone from the outside at this point? I don't think you can do that. So it seems like having these two-way guys as backups or alternates seems like a really good idea.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea too. And I could see like some pretty simple precautions, you know, because they're trying to limit the amount of people in the games and everything. So, I mean, two-way guys could be guys that stay in the hotels even during the games, and they just watch them on TV. And then if something happens, they could call and say, hey, like have them be ready to go. They could say, hey, you got to come over here. They get the guy who gets hurt or whatever out off the court and then bring the two-way guy in. They could do things like that.
Right. And I was thinking about this today, and it's not terrible, but I think we were the only team in the NBA to not have two-way contracts signed.
Right.
And I'd hate for that to come bite us in the butt. Say that 2 people get hurt or sick during this tournament and we could really use another guy. That kind of chapped me a little bit.
Yeah, that would be rough. Yeah, I don't know why we didn't have another two-way guy. Like we could have. We had this open spot all year long.
Save a few bucks is really the only reason why.
Yeah.
And that's not even that much for that contract in the scheme of things.
But even 1 cent is a lot for Robert Sarver.
All right. Home court. We've heard some
court.
crazy things about home court, and I don't know if these are all real, but we'll talk about them. And the deal is, how do you get a playoff team to actually have some sort of home court advantage for having the better record or winning percentage? And some of them seem to make a little sense. Some of them are pretty funny, I guess. Funny would be a good way to put it. But how would you do it, Mitch? How would you give a team home court advantage at a neutral floor?
That's a great question. I mean, I'll throw out some things that I've heard, whether these are real or not. Right before this, we were talking about bringing the physical courts in. So that's one way that, the home team would have their court, which I don't know how much that would change. I mean, they get to see their logo, and, each court is kind of a different color. So that's one thing. Another thing I saw was the home team could potentially have a couple more coaches challenges. The home team could have a couple more possessions, which I know the players are all super against that. I don't think that's the way to do it either.
Yeah, that's crazy talk.
Right. Or I saw something that said the home team would have their choice of where they would stay first. I don't know exactly how that would work and if that would be like more of a playoff situation, or I don't know how they would do that for each regular season game, but something along those lines.
I see the Suns staying at the Motel 6 through a lot of this.
Yeah, yeah, if that's the case, it would be rough for us. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be like this campus style. So, I don't know how smart it would be to have all of these teams like switching hotels throughout all of it. That seems like it wouldn't really benefit anyone.
Right.
I think this is what I think. Crowd noise. Crowd noise has been a topic throughout all of this, and they've talked about bringing in the 2K crowd noise, like the automated crowd noise. I mean, most teams already pump in crowd noise to say defense or whatever. The Suns do that. Or I saw a thing that said on Twitter, someone had suggested having fans like ready to go on Zoom to show their reactions. And someone from Australia said one of their sports leagues is doing that, and it's just been a complete mess and a total nightmare, which I can see why. So I have this thought. Home court advantage could involve crowd noise. What if only crowd noise were to only be pumped in when the opposing team had the ball or something like that? Or maybe they turn it down for the home team. I don't know. That might be kind of tough because sometimes the possessions change quickly. But maybe like during free throws or something, they say, okay, turn the crowd noise on for the opposing, the away team's free throws. Maybe using crowd noise to benefit. But as I say that, I think that might be weird. Maybe playing without crowd noise will be harder for teams because they're not used to it. So maybe they get their choice in when they want the crowd noise or something like that. That could be a way to do it.
That's interesting because I bet it would be somewhat simple for them to set up whoever has possession of the ball, the crowd noise is at this volume, and then when the other team has the ball, the crowd noise is at this volume. I wonder if that could be something that's set up.
Yeah. Maybe.
It seems, maybe the most realistic out of all of these.
Well, maybe. I truly think the most realistic out of all of these is the home team having extra coaches challenges. Because, think about teams that get hometowned. This happens to us whether we're at home or on the road. But, being able to have 2 or 3 maybe extra coaches challenges, it's going to make the game longer. But, a lot of times the home team will be favored. I think we can all acknowledge that. And so maybe the home team getting a couple extra coaches challenges would do that. I don't really want to see that, but I think that's the most realistic.
Maybe one extra.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, that'd be a good one. I think that or crowd noise would probably be 2 things that really don't have giant effects on the game, but does a little bit to favor the home team.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Or, I mean, maybe we just say, just go out and play your hardest.
Go out there and play. Just like the Cox Pavilion at Las Vegas Summer League, when you
Right.
can hear all the screeches of the shoes and the dribble of the ball and every screen call out, every coach yelling at the team. That's more fun than hearing the crappy pop music play in the background or the
Right. Right.
pumped in defense chants. I'd rather hear that.
Yeah, that's really what I want. I want the players to be mic'd up. You know, I think that would be great. No crowd noise, mic up the players. I mean,
Sensors would have to be ready for that.
they would. But I just had another thought. Maybe this could be fun. The home team could choose the music. Like they could choose what songs play in the timeouts and all that. They get to put together like the playlist or whatever.
That sounds pretty silly.
Yeah, it'd be fun though.
Why not?
And then maybe teams just try to throw the opposing team off. When I worked in baseball, I used to work for like this summer league intercollegiate like kind of team back in Wyoming. And whenever our rival team was taking batting practice, I would play like Kids Bop Christmas over the speakers.
Nice.
Because when we went to play them, they would play like smooth jazz. And so then one time I remember I played the same Kids Bop Christmas song over and over and over and over for their entire BP. Yeah.
That's great.
So that adds an element of like fun and maybe trying to mess with the other team.
Kind of like the pink locker room effect.
Yeah, exactly.
I like that. Yeah. Maybe, yeah, I like that too. A little mental mind games there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we've touched on the 22 team return we did last week too. Let's talk about the Suns now and what this means for our Phoenix Suns right now. This team it's a young team still. Even with Rubio and Baines on the roster, it's still a young team across the board. And this building block, it's necessary. We get to see these guys come back and play. Yeah, maybe our chances of making the playoffs are a little rough. We'll get into that later. But let's just talk about what this means to this squad.
I think it means a lot. The fact that we're going to continue to play rather than just sit at home like the Knicks, you know, this is the first time that we're going to play a meaningful basketball game in, I don't know how long, maybe 10 years.
No, that's not quite true, but definitely in the Devin Booker era.
Okay.
We can say that undoubtedly.
In the Devin Booker era. Yeah. This is the first meaningful game. These are the first meaningful games we'll have in the Devin Booker era. And I'm excited. I think this is going to be an opportunity for Devin Booker to prove how clutch he is. It's going to be an opportunity for all these guys who talk the talk to get to try to walk the walk, you know?
Right.
Kelly Oubre, DeAndre Ayton, these guys who like to talk, show up on the court, you know? And I think they will. I really do. I think they're going to play well. They're going to have some rest. They're going to have some time to get things back together. So I think that alone is very meaningful. Whether we make the playoffs or not, the opportunity to prove themselves in a meaningful situation is going to be big.
Right. And this is the playoffs for us.
Yeah.
It's more or less do or die from the tip-off of the first game we come back. We don't even know who we play yet, but we pretty much have to win every game.
Yeah.
It's not exactly do or die because there's who knows all the crazy business that can happen with the other 21 teams, but we walk out onto that court knowing that we need to win every single game if we want to make the playoffs. We've never had that before. So this is it's something to look forward to, and it's something that we're gonna finally get to see this next level come out of these guys.
Right. And yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be interesting to see who steps up, because we have a couple guys on our team who we've questioned their level of effort. You know, I'll throw DeAndre Ayton out there. We've wondered, how much does he want it? Is the drive there? Clearly he's a good player, but like, how badly does he want it? And I could see getting bogged down by losing game after game after game and knowing you're not going to make the playoffs. I can understand that. But I want to see DeAndre Ayton go out there and just be a monster because he knows every second counts. And if he doesn't, that's going to tell me a lot too.
Right. That'll be very disappointing to see. And I haven't even thought about that as individual players yet. I've thought about what if the Suns come out and lay 3 eggs in a row and it's just over then. Then we have 5 games to sit through that we know everybody will be disappointed and feeling down. And what'll be the fun in watching that. But other side, the cool side of the pillow, some of these teams that we play might be resting players or playing them very limited minutes because they already have their playoff spot locked up. Maybe they have their seed even locked up. They're not worried about it. Maybe we get some matchups like that and take advantage of the situation. That could very well happen.
Well, I hope we play the Clippers 8 times because Kawhi's not going to play any of those. Paul George isn't going to play any of those. Patrick Beverley's probably not going to play any of those. They're going to rest all their big-time guys. I mean, I don't want to play the Clippers every game. They have a solid lineup from top to bottom. But,
loads will be managed.
That's right.
In these 8 games for sure. And just to reiterate it, no one will have the sense of urgency that the Phoenix Suns will to win these games, except maybe the Wizards on the other side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's going to be cool. And I think I'm honestly optimistic about this. I think guys are going to show up. I think guys like, well, obviously Devin Booker, but guys like Mikal Bridges and Kelly Oubre, those guys are just going to like go off. They're going to give every ounce of their effort. Aaron Baines, like those guys who already play hard, I think are just going to turn it up another notch.
Absolutely. And you talk about Baines, and then I think about Rubio. Those are 2 guys that played long off seasons in FIBA. They didn't get an off season, and they were visibly run down just around the All-Star break. I'd say you could tell that those guys needed that break when it came, and the juice just wasn't quite there. But they've had 3 months off now. Those guys gotta be feeling a little bit rejuvenated and ready to play. And when we saw Ricky Rubio playing at his peak and Aaron Baines shooting lights out, doing some wild stuff there, if you put that all together, maybe we can make a little noise. I get so optimistic for this team every year, and it's foolish. But you look at the start of our season. What were the first 8 games of our season? Was that a 6-2 start?
Yeah, it went pretty darn well.
7-2 after 9, I think it was.
Yeah.
So
we're looking good.
What if we come out and do that again and make things interesting? Let's think about it. Kelly Oubre. In an interview, Robert Sarver said that Kelly Oubre should be ready back to play for the start of this 8-game season here. And then Frank Kaminsky, he's been at the Madhouse on McDowell working out. He says he's ready to go too. This is a full-strength team right now. That's exciting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't wait. These kind of games are what we've been waiting for a long time. It only took a global pandemic to get us there, but we got there nonetheless. So let's keep this momentum.
That's right. Okay, now let's bring things back down to earth a little bit and talk about what needs to happen for the Suns to actually make a possible playoff spot or even a play-in spot. We'll just talk about it a little bit. Okay. And so you're saying there's a chance, so you're telling me there's a chance. Yeah. That sums things up here. Okay. So with the new system here, the Suns need to obviously win a bunch of games and really hope that either the Grizzlies or one of the teams under them kind of crap the bed is what needs to happen. So we have a bit of a table laid out here showing we need a better win percentage is what it's going to take. It doesn't go by games back. It goes by win percentage. So after these 8 games, If the Suns go 8-0, we end with a .466 winning percentage. And the Grizzlies would have to go 2-6 for us to tie them. So it's pretty unlikely. Let's get that nice and clear. 8 seed is very, very unlikely to happen. But the 9th seed, while coming within 4 games of the Grizzlies, is actually quite possible. This is also relying on poor performances from teams like the Blazers, Pelicans, and Kings, but it's somewhat possible in that sense. So if anything's going to happen, the Suns are going to have a great 8-game stretch. Blazers, Pelicans, Kings are going to falter, as well as the Spurs. And then we get that 9 seed within 4 games of the Grizzlies, and we get the play-in game. I think that's ultimate best case scenario.
Yeah. And is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? Probably not. I don't imagine the Grizzlies losing that many games. They had a good season. The Blazers are going to be back at full strength. I think Zach Collins could potentially come back. They'll get Nurkic back. Like, he was going to come back pretty close to the time that all of this shut down anyway. So they'll be tough. The Pelicans will be really tough, I think. The Kings and the Spurs I'm not so much worried about, but Grizzlies, Blazers, Pelicans, those are going to be tough teams to work with here.
Yeah, it's really going to matter who we play, when we play them, and then obviously us winning when we get the matchups that we do.
Right.
I really hope that we get handed a team similar in strength to us for the first game. I don't want to go up against some powerhouse right away. But then once we get a little further into the 8 games, then I hope we maybe catch some luck with a matchup where a guy like LeBron rests the game, or, you know, Kawhi is resting the game, or Paul George, or any great player. I just hope we can catch some breaks in not typical Phoenix Suns fashion.
Yeah. I mean, it would be nice. And it reminds me of, you know, the downside of all of this. Well, the upside is that we're in. The downside is we're the worst team that's in. So,
right.
Like, normally we have some of those games built in, like, okay, I know I'm picking on the Knicks, but, like, we're going to play the Knicks. We're going to play the Hawks. We're going to play these teams that just aren't very good. And we don't have that in this setting. Like, the next worst team we're going to play is probably the Wizards. And the Wizards had our number this year. Their style of basketball just is probably going to beat us most of the time. And we're used to only playing them, once, twice a year?
Yep.
So that's going to be interesting. Even our best case scenario of getting matched up against the Wizards, Spurs, Kings, maybe like the Nets. I mean, the Nets could have Kyrie back. Which at this point, I don't know if that's a good thing or not for them. But our competition is not going to be easy. It's all going to be pretty stiff. I mean, Kings and Spurs, I think, are beatable teams for us. The Wizards, possibly. But like I said, the way they play just doesn't suit us well. So we kind of have to hope we get matched up against those 3 and catch the good teams resting guys.
Right. And we hope that Booker and Ayton combined for 60 per
65,
night?
70.
I like the sounds of that. I think that's the ticket to victory there.
Yeah. I know. It's pretty exciting, though. I do want to mention one other thing here, though. We know for certain now that next season will be starting December 1st after all of this. So October 12th is the last possible day that this current season could go, just depending on how long playoff series go and everything. So that leaves about 6 weeks between the end of this season and the start of the next season on December 1st.
That's such a quick turnaround.
Yeah, and we're going to have to put a draft in there too.
And I know the 8 teams that are not playing in the season anymore, they want some sort of mini summer league, some exhibition games, or a longer training camp than all of the other 22 teams are going to get, just because they're missing out on this part of the season. Yeah, it's just gonna be interesting how this all ends up working out.
Yeah, and that, I mean, we'll just have to cross that bridge when we get to it at this point. But just wanted to point that out, that we know for certain now that next season will start December 1st. And I'm not sure if that's going to be shortened or how that's going to look. I don't know if they've made a decision on when that will end. Because in my mind, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, just shorten that season, make it like a lockout type season so that we can get everything back on track. Because by the 2021-22 season, this coronavirus business should be taken care of. You know,
Right.
We should be able to be back to basketball like normal, have all the fans there. So my mind says, you know, shorten the next season, start it in December, end it June, July, like it normally would, get back to normal. But who knows? Who knows what that'll look like at this point? So, yeah, it's exciting stuff. It's good to have this knowledge that basketball is officially back. So I guess I will take it out of the little description on our episodes. Basketball is back.
Is back.
Yes. But with that, we will move to our non-sports section of the show. And I was inspired by this topic today because I'm tired. So we're going to talk about our bedtime routines. So what does your bedtime routine look like and why?
Okay, so we brought this up right before the show, and I thought, I don't have a bedtime routine. And then I slowly realized that I actually do. I just have never considered it a routine, but now I will. So I'm a bit of a night owl, but because I have a wife who is not quite as much of a night owl as me, I've been really working hard on a midnight bedtime lately. I've been really trying to hit the hay at midnight. So before that, I feel like I'm always watching a stupid YouTube video right before bed. And that kind of tells me that, hey, it's time to go to bed. So after that, I head out and I let the dog out. And the dog has the routine too, because she just runs straight to the corner of the yard, pees, and then runs right back to the door. It's perfect every time. So it's a YouTube video, then take the dog out. Then we go make coffee for the morning. That's the next part of the routine. And then right after that is oral hygiene time.
Nice.
Take care of the old mouth. And then it's hit the hay. I find some stupid crime show of some sort. Not anything modern. The really old stuff on Antenna TV, like channel like 12.2 or something like that. You gotta just find like the most obscure one. And then that puts me to bed like a little baby. Half-hour sleep timer, I'm always out before the TV shuts off. And that's it.
That's pretty nice. Okay.
And it's every night. It's literally every night. And I fall asleep like a baby pretty much every night. So I like it.
Nice. Okay, my routine is a little bit different. So
I bet there's some more quirk to this.
There's quite a bit of quirk to mine. And
Yeah.
I've eliminated a lot of quirk in the last few years, I guess, but there's a quirk. So, timing wise, I'm absolutely a night owl. If I had nothing to do, I would go to sleep at like 3 or 4 in the morning every night. Like I could do that.
I'd go nocturnal in the summer. No doubt. No doubt.
Yeah. I'm not a morning person at all. Total night owl. But I have set myself a window of time. Because what happens is if I say, okay, I'm going to bed by midnight, if it's like 12:10, I'll tell myself, well, I missed it, so I guess I'll just go to bed at 1 or 2 or whatever. It's too late already. So I give myself a window. On the days that I start work at 10, I go to bed between midnight and 1 a.m. because I know I like to stay up late. And getting 7 hours of sleep is actually kind of my sweet spot. 8 I can do, but sometimes I'll be kind of groggy if I get 8 hours. So I'm usually aiming for 7, maybe a little bit more, but never more than 8. I'll just be like groggy. And I actually got a little bit more than 8 last night, and I'm really tired right now. It's kind of weird. So yeah, days I start at 10, I'm asleep between midnight and 1 a.m. And the days I start at 9 a.m., I'm asleep between 11 and midnight. Usually closer to the end of those times. But I give myself that window, so that's been helpful. Before all of that, though, I wear contacts, so I make sure to take those out. If you've been following the podcast for a while, you all know I've had interesting issues with my contacts throughout the years. So I'm really on top of that. Take my contacts out. Oral hygiene, big time. I have one of those like Sonicare electric toothbrushes. Those things are great. I do
You ever
that.
have a water pick?
Oh yeah, I have a water pick.
I've been thinking about that.
Oh, they're great. I highly recommend water picks. Yeah, I got one of those recently. They're great. So yeah, I don't use the water pick every night, but that's kind of like a special occasion. I really love like brushing my teeth. I love the way it feels. So yeah, water pick every so often, but I always floss. I've done that every day for years. Washing my face, all of that. Sometimes I clean my ears out a little bit with Q-tips.
Love it.
And then after all of that, well, through that, I'm usually listening to a podcast or listening to music. It's been a little bit different lately because a lot of times that's when I'm catching up on basketball stuff. I'll listen to like Zach Lowe or the No Dunks podcast or Amir Blumenfeld's podcast, Buckets. All those shows, those are usually some of my go-tos. A lot of times right before bed is when I'm catching up on all of that. So I'll be listening to that stuff throughout all of that. After I'm all ready, I will get into bed and usually try to like catch up on a little bit of news. I'm trying not to use my phone as much right before bed because I know it's not the best thing. But I am one of those people that I have to have everything off, like pure, like pitch dark, no sound, no nothing. I used to fall asleep to podcasts because I can, but now I just find I sleep better when I don't have something going. And what happens is sometimes I forget to do a sleep timer and I end up having podcasts playing all night long. And that's always kind of jarring to like wake up to a podcast that like you've already listened to and you're like, this ran all night.
That's how we get those Sunny and PHX numbers up though.
Yeah, not quite, but no. Yeah, so everything is silent. It's pitch dark. As soon as my head hits that pillow, I'm out. Like, once I decide to put my phone down and go to sleep, I can go to sleep pretty much on command. And my bed is, like, set up in a certain way where I have one pillow I rest my head on. I have one next to me that I don't really use for anything. I have another one that I might put between my legs. I might just have laying next to me. I have two other ones that are cold. They're just, like, the material that they're made out of is, like, something that always stays pretty cold. So if I get too hot at night, I'll take my feet out from under the covers and put them on those pillows. Like I've got that all set up. It's nice.
Oh, Mitch, I'm just laughing to myself because you sound like a single man right now. And things are going to change. Things are going to change
soon. And luckily, shout out to Denise, who's been on the show, my fiance. Our wedding is like right before next season starts. So we kind of got very lucky with the NBA's decision to start the season on December 1st. So there's going to be no basketball for me to worry about as we're like inching closer to our wedding.
Well, the honeymoon thanks you and the NBA for no basketball at that time.
Yeah, it'll be nice.
All right, that wraps it up for this week. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Make sure to check us out on social media at Sunny and PHX Pod. That's Twitter and Instagram. And basketball is finally coming back. We'll be coming back with more news on the return of the NBA every week. Be sure to check us out. Thanks for tuning in, and go Suns.
I'm tired and I want to go to bed. Sing me to sleep, sing me to sleep.